Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Usually we talk about which precons I think are best to buy or which ones, have the best value, etc. But today we're just going to be talking about my favorite precons. These are just precons that I absolutely love, how I've upgraded them as well. I'll go into depth into too, because I think that's important because when you get a precon, you're usually not going to just keep it around how it is. You want to generally upgrade it and stuff. So we're going to go through that too. So these are obviously my favorite precons and aren't necessarily the best ones to buy though. I would suggest them because I have a lot of fun with them and I enjoy them, but they're not like on my top 10 suggested necessarily. Some of them are, some of them might not be. There is a lot of really awesome stuff here, and some of my favorite decks have come from building upon precon. So I take a precon and, add in some stuff into it, take some stuff out, and then kind of, eventually it becomes a ship of Theseus where there's some serious upgrades in there, but most of them aren't kind of required. I just like tweaking them as I'm going, and that's kind of how I do my decks, right? I get my deck and then I build it up, and then I'm like looking at it and I'm like, hey, this new card just came out, I'll chuck it in here to kind of, because it's going to be better than other versions of it, kind of, it's power crept or whatever. So again, these aren't necessarily the best ones to buy, but just my favorites. Before we get into it though, make sure you guys subscribe. This could be the last video you see from me because the YouTube algorithm hates, passing out good content apparently. But this is the best way to be able to get instant speed news. As soon as news comes out, boom, pre-con coverage, all that kind of stuff. And it's a free and easy way that you guys can support the channel. Just click one subscribe button. And if you are wanting to support, the channel financially, as well as pick up these precons for the cheapest price possible, you can purchase them over on TCG Player, and I'll put the link to that down below. And that's also supporting the channel too. So starting off with Desert Bloom, which I've said multiple times is my absolute favorite precon of all time, which is funny because when the actual precon set came out, this was one that got absolutely people ripped it apart. They're like, this is absolutely trash, but it's just really fun. And then anyone that I've talked to since that I've said, hey, look, pick up this precon, they've picked it up and been like, wow, this is actually really cool. So I think that a lot of people kind of judged it based off of like a cursory glance without going into depth into it. You're going to be playing a lot of lands out and then you're going to be sacrificing those lands. More specifically, you want deserts and then creating some awesome plant people. It plays very aggressively and can be upgraded in a variety of different ways. There is this side theme of landfall that works really well. And every set, there's like cards that you can potentially add into this, whether they're discard cards or, sacrifice cards or whatever. Our commander here is Yuma, the Proud Protector. He has, whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks, you can sacrifice a land, and if you do, draw a card. And then also, whenever a desert is put into the graveyard from anywhere, create a 4/2 green plant warrior. So again, that means if you get it off the battlefield, or if you self-mill it, or if you discard it, boom, you're going to create this plant warrior, which is great. Within the actual precon, there's a whole bunch of like landfall stuff, some deserts and stuff. So you've got like Ancient Greenwater was reprinted in here, which makes it so all these landfalls trigger twice. And that's kind of how I went into mine. A lot of kind of landfall-y stuff, but then also some extra kind of deserts and stuff. So going through the kind of upgrades here, I did add a couple extra removal, like an extra removal here with Beast Within and another board wipe with Austere Command. We've got like Annie's Joins up here to double those triggers. We've got some stuff like Blossoming Tortoise to make it so that we're getting more self-mill, and then this one also is self-mill, and then also you can take those lands that you put into the graveyard and return one back to the battlefield there, which is really, really good. Yeah, that's just return any land. It doesn't even need to be one that you've just milled too. Aftermath Analyst is great for being able to bring all of your graveyard, all of your lands back from the graveyard all at once. We've got stuff like Desert Warfare, which was from the Tricky Terrain precon, which honestly, I'm really shocked this wasn't from this precon. Like, it's got whenever you sacrifice a desert or whenever a desert is put into your graveyard from your hand or library, that just is perfect for this precon. That's like the most perfect card you'll ever find for this precon, because it's just whenever you do the thing the precon wants, do extra stuff. And as I said, I've got a couple extra landfall things in here with Felidar Retreat and Bristly Bill. We've got like Life from the Loam. Amazing card for this deck. Head Shredder, again, really great because whenever you put a land into the graveyard from your library, so whenever you do some self-mill stuff, boom, now it's going to come back. Really good. The Hero's Lithoforming is just like a big finisher because you're going to sacrifice all your lands, then you're going to draw cards, and then you get to play additional lands out. So it's going to proc your commander so much, as well as all your landfall things all at once. We've also got 6, which is a great mill card, Spelunking. So now whenever those lands come back, because most likely that when they come back from your graveyard to the battlefield, they're coming back tapped. Now they're not coming back in tapped. Undergrowth Recon allows you also to just return 1 from the graveyard to the battlefield each time. You're going to get so much ramp from this. It's so great. I love it. And you're going to get so many of these plant warriors out as well. I'm not going to go through all the upgrades. I've got stars next to the kind of like the more important ones and the ones I'm kind of talking about a little bit. We've got Peace Offering. So this is a group hug deck, right? Now, this is one that I will say I don't suggest for newer players, but for anyone else, it's great. I love it. You'll get to be friendly with everyone. You get to hand out cards to everyone. You get to be nice. And then boom, you get to stab them in the back by winning. The way I've upgraded this one is more into like those alternate win cons. And that's what I love about the deck. And the way I built it up is that I'm going to sit here and hand out cards to everyone as I'm slowly building up my alternate win cons. And then just boom, win, and be like, hey, this is really, I enjoy it a lot. One of our guys, so we had a Precon league, and the guy who had the Peace Offering, or one of the guys who had Peace Offering, went 97% win rate, which is just crazy. So our face commander here is Miss Bumbleflower, and she is, whenever you cast a spell, you're going to give a target opponent a card, and then you get to put a +1 counter on target creature, and it gains flying. And then if it's the second time you've resolved it this turn, then you're going to draw 2 cards in addition to, the opponent draws cards and you get to put a +1 on things. And the actual base deck does come with 20 Toad, which is an alternate win con, because it's going to be whenever you attack, if it's got 20 or more counters or you have 20 or more cards in hand, boom, now you're going to win the game. So that's basically like one of the alternate win cons within the actual Precon. And then the way I've built it, as I said, like a whole bunch of alternate win cons. So we've got like Approach for the Second Sun, which is an alternate win con. We've got a whole bunch of stuff around draw. And because I've got End to the Infinite here, that's going to synergize well with some of the other alt win cons. Sure, Free Strider Lookout is crazy in this, because each time you get to proc Bumbleflower, you're going to proc that Free Strider Lookout. So you get to land for, put a land onto the battlefield tap from that. We've also got Giggling Skitterspike. If you slowly build this up, you're slowly then going to just chip everyone away, because you can give it flying, you can give it a +1 each time, and then it becomes like, a 10-10 that's then dealing 10 damage to each opponent whenever it attacks. Jace is obviously an alternate win con here, because he's whenever you draw a card and your deck is empty, you win the game instead. I haven't got all the alternate win cons in here that I could, but I've got a fair few of them. And then we've got a couple kind of, better lands with the Spyro Headquarters, Sea of Clouds, and Rejuvenating Springs that I had sitting around there. Smothering Tithe, because now whenever you give someone a card draw, you get to create a treasure unless they pay 2. Propaganda to just protect us a little bit extra. And then the second Doctor is just a great kind of protection piece as well. Wilderness Reclamation, because of the fact that we want to be able to cast multiple spells, this just lets you lets you cast more, especially because we've got so much card draw in here as well. Going into Miracle Worker. So this is one that's definitely not on my top 10 list, but it is definitely one of my top 5 precons of all time that I love, the favorite precons. So this is enchantment focused, and it's definitely kind of built around, or at least I've kind of built it a lot around my commander. You're going to be using your commander and playing big enchantments a lot cheaper. You've got top deck manipulation to enable that miracle mechanic, and there's some minor kind of graveyard play in here. The reason I love it is because it's just so like heart of the cards, right? You got your deck there, and then you draw it and you're like, yes, now I get to play this for 4 cheaper or whatever it is. It's really, really great. I love it, and it just feels like so much of a, like, I don't know, almost kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Heart of the cards from the anime kind of thing. So your face commander here is Aminatu, and that's the one I've kind of built it around here. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get to Surveil 2, and then each enchantment in your hand has Miracle, and it's reduced by 4. Now, technically that means that when you draw it, it's going to be 4 less if it's an enchantment, basically, which is great, and you can cast it straight away. Also, you can cast it at essentially instant speed. You don't need to, like, it doesn't need to be on your turn to be able to cast it. Technically, if you draw a card on someone else's turn, and that's your first card you drew that turn, then boom, you can play that for its miracle cost. So, instant speed card draw is great. Ancient Cellar Spawn is really good in this deck because it's going to deal a lot of damage out to people, because essentially, each time you're casting something, if it's costing 4 less, boom, you're dealing 4 damage to target opponent. So this is how I've got upgraded it. As I said, some more kind of top deck manipulation with Consider, with Brain Surge, etc. And those are both instant speed, as you'll notice. I've also got some bigger kind of enchantments to bring in here with like Baneful Omen, as well as Boon of the Spirit Realm. Some more card draw with Entity Tracker. Some better kind of lands. I've put a couple different lands in here as well. So Isolated Chapel, Glacial Fortress, and Exotic Orchard there. Extinguish All Hope as a big board wipe, especially because we're going to have a lot of enchantment creatures. The deck already can build some up, and we can just slowly build them up. And then we've also got the fact that I believe in the Precon there was that card that made everything into enchantments, so that will essentially allow us to board wipe everyone else. Hidden Retreat, I think, is a hidden strong card in this. It is choose a card in your hand and put it on the top of your library, and then you get to prevent all damage from an instant or sorcery. So what you do is on your turn, you do this, you put it on the top of an enchantment that you've drawn that you weren't able to miracle out, and then boom, on your next draw or whenever you draw, then you can miracle it. It's great. Same with Greed, just instant speed card draw is obviously really great within this deck. As I said, some big enchantments with Fractured Realm, as well as Overlord of the Mistmoors, as well as Shadow of the Second Sun here. Resurgent Belief to just bring all those enchantments back in case you do get board wiped. And Smothering Tithe. I had extra Smothering Tithe sitting around. And then we've also got ways to be able to animate them with Zur Eternal Schema and Starfield of Nyx. So that way all our enchantments now are also creatures. And then we can throw them at people, which is great. Zur Eternal Schema actually picked up prior to the Precon going on sale because I was, I was really excited for this Precon, and it was really cheap at the time. And then now it's like a $20 card or something. We got Timey Wimey. So this is a time counters theme with a side of like exile play. So playing around with cards in exile. There is lots of time counter manipulation, whether it's add time counters or remove them, or the new time travel mechanic, which was introduced within this Precon, which was essentially when you time travel, each thing that has a time counter on it, you can either add one or subtract one. Or I think it's each one of you own, each card that you own that with a time counter on it, I believe it is. You can cheat big mana stuff out with this as well, because you don't need to pay the mana cost. If you there's some cards that I've added in here which are exile target card from your hand with 3 time counters on it, and then you just time travel it out to be able to cheat it out. So our commander is 10th Doctor and Rose Tyler. That's what I'm running it with. And they synergize really well because Rose gets +1 for each time counter on her. And whenever she attacks, she gets time counters based off of each suspended permanent you own or each permanent you control with time counters on it. So you get a whole bunch of time counters onto her with that. And then the 10th Doctor lets you put things into exile with time counters on it. And then also this part here, that's pay 7, time travel 3 times. The amount of times that has won me the game is just absolutely bonkers. And I'll show you one of the cards that helps me actually 2 of the cards that I've added in here helped me win the game with it. And yeah, I just kind of doubled down onto the time counters. One of the other cards within here, Dinosaurs of the Spaceship, to kind of give you an idea of what it is. That one has Suspend, so you cast it into Suspend with its time counters, and then each time one of those is removed, you get to create a 2/2 red and white dinosaur creature. So I've exiled this, and then I've used the 10th Doctor to time travel 3 times, and then boom, now I've got 3 big 2/2 red and white dinosaur creatures flying and haste. One little known thing that people don't realize, and or at least, some of the people that I play with only found this out the last time when I was over at Guff, was that if a creature, when its time counters are up, so when it hits 0 time counters and enters the battlefield, it gains haste. So that's in the reminder here for Joyra. It's a part of the suspend stuff. When it hits 0 time counters, you then cast it without paying its mana cost, and if it's a creature, it gains haste. So that means that you can haste out so much stuff. It's really good. So the big things that have won me the game are Chronomatic Escape, because it makes it so that creatures can't attack you, and then it exiles itself with 3 time counters on it. If you have enough mana to be able to time travel each time with the 10th Doctor, boom, now no one can attack you, ever. And then you add in stuff like, Rousing Refrain. Boom. Now you've got infinite mana as well, not infinite. You've got a whole bunch of mana each time as well. There's actually ways to be able to go, like the way I've gone infinite with it was with I had Training Grounds out. So therefore the time travel only cost 5. Someone had 7 cards in hand, so then Rousing Refrain was giving me 7 mana. I was then spending 5 on the time travel 3 times, Rousing Refrain again, and then time travel again, etc. So I just had infinite red mana with that, which is really, really fun. And then you just cast out your hand, do a whole bunch of stuff. You know, you can use Joyrah, exile everything from your hand, etc. There's just so many ways to be able to make use of it. So yeah, I've kind of doubled down a lot into the time counter stuff with this, but I've also got like stuff like Flawless Maneuver to protect myself. I also found that Rose Tyler gets blasted off the board really quick when she becomes a 20/20, so Swiftfoot Boots is in there to give her 1, haste, and 2, enable you to be able to get hexproof as well onto her. And then you've got Suspend. Suspend is such a great card in this because you can use it either as removal and use it on someone else's, or you can use it as protection. I've used it on Rose Tyler to protect her, exile her with 3 time counters on her because someone was targeting her, and then she comes back later on, or, you know, I can just time travel with the Doctor later too. This is probably my least upgraded deck, but I don't know. I wanted to keep it mostly on Doctor Who theme, hence why it's not really super upgraded. And stuff like, you know, Sinister Concierge, I could easily see within a Doctor Who set, like a Doctor Who episode. So that's kind of why it's in there. A lot of these are like things that I could imagine being in Doctor Who episodes, basically. So then we've got the Veloci-RAMP-Tor. So this is the Dinosaur Tribal deck. Now, keep in mind that usually this one is very expensive. At the moment, it's not so much. If you go to TCG Player, it was a lot cheaper. I don't know if it's still cheaper. We did a video on it the other day. So, you know, I know that a lot of people who saw that video went and purchased it. So hopefully, you know, if you saw the video, you went and got it. Let me just check how much it is at the moment. It is gone back up, I believe. Yeah, it's gone back up a little bit. It is sitting at 73, but when I did the video the other day, it was down to 67. So, you know, if you wanted to pick this up, make sure you head on over and grab it as soon as possible, because as soon as this LCI Precon reprint that's just come out kind of goes away, it's going to go back up. So there's this side theme of Enrage within it as well, where you get value from your creatures taking damage. And in the actual Precon, there's like the alternate commander has ways to make your creatures kind of fight each other to get those enraged values. There's just a lot of big dinos and value from getting them out. It's a very expensive Precon, as I said, but at the moment it's cheaper. So, you know, if you're watching this now, go grab it. If you're watching it in, you know, a couple months time, I'm sorry. So as I said, you know, Pantlaza is one way that you kind of cheat things out. Whenever her or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you get to discover X. So that's like the fixed cascade, essentially. You exile cards from the top of your library until you find one with mana value less than or equal to the toughness of whatever dinosaur just entered. And then you can cast it for free, or you can put it into your hand. And as I said, you know, about the enraged mechanic, ranging raptors is one of those there, where you get to essentially kind of tutor up a basic land whenever he takes damage. So these are upgrades I've got. As I said, I mostly just went into dinos. I just kind of doubled down on the whole dino thing. So, you know, we've got like Atali, we've got Deflecting SWAT. A lot of these I've actually pulled. Like, you know, you look at these and you look at like Atali, expensive card, Deflecting SWAT, expensive card. Primarily, I kind of just pull my stuff, which is probably just as expensive, buying boxes of stuff and then having fun opening it, but I have a lot of fun with that, and then I go upgrade my decks with it. We've got like Hulking Raptor, crazy amounts of extra mana, like 2 extra mana each pre-combat main phase is great. Monster Manual, just cheat out a dino with it. We've got a couple extra protection in here with Heroic, Intervention, Flawless Maneuver, Deflecting SWAT. I've got some better lands within here as well. Overgrown Farmland. We've got Reflecting Pool, Horizon Canopy. And then, you know, we've got like 3 Tree City, Windswept Heath as well. Yeah, most of the fixes are lands, to be honest, or just extra dinos or better dinos. Savage Order is a great one because you get to tutor up a dino with it. And then I've got like the Welcome To. This is great too because, you know, you get to create a dino, you get to give each person a wall, which is funny, and then you also get to give all your dinos escape once it flips over and have a big kind of mana rock from it too. And then, you know, the Windswept Heath here, as I said, you know, extra lands. Better lands is the kind of primary thing that has kind of gone into this deck. So I'd love to hear from you guys as to what you think. What are your favorite precons of all time? And also, where does the Shippia Theseus come in here? How many cards can I replace from a deck before I say that is no longer an upgraded precon? Is it, 20 cards? Can I replace 20 cards and it's no longer a precon, 30, etc.? Or does it depend on what it is? Like, are you upgrading? If you upgrade the mana base, does it use less of your budget than, like your upgrade budget than upgrading actual things within it? Let me know. Have a great day and goodbye.